So, I popped into High House Insurance to see if they could quote for my house insurance rather than using the internet. High House got a great deal. So to celebrate, I bought a posh hairdo. It made me look beautiful, gorgeous enough to become a highly paid model. I then won Celebrity Big Brother. I had an affair with an MP. Now I'm promoting a doll of me that says, "Cool blimey, you're well fit."
Happy things happen when you talk face-to-face with High House Insurance. See if we can beat your home insurance quote from the internet. Find us on the High Street, Selsey, or call 606 552.
Hi, this is Keith Barnes, welcoming you to Selsey Internet Radio. This week, as usual, we have a full programme for you, in which I get to talk to Sue Graves about the end of the Pier Show, Tallulah Stevens lets us know what's going on in and around the village for the coming week, and Hugh Graham gets on his bike and speaks to Gill Jennings about the Medmerry Realignment scheme, to Nick Jones about A Dark Day Dawns, to Giles about the garden, and of course to Lynn about her fish suppers. Firstly, I not only had the opportunity to take part in this year's End of the Pier Show, but I got to talk to the lady who was the driving force behind it. This is Keith Barnes for Selsey Internet Radio. On the 15th and 16th of this month, over 400 people came over 2 nights to see what can only be described as a spectacular variety show at the Academy in Selsey. Now, I've been lucky enough to have been a small part of the End of the Pier Show for the past 4 years, and today it gives me great pleasure to talk to the lady who is the driving force behind this fantastic show, Sue Graves. Now, Sue, for the benefit of those that have not been as lucky as me, can you tell us, how long have you been doing the End of the Pier Show, and how did you first become involved?
Well, the first End of the Pier Show took place in 2002, so this was our 12th year this year. And I have to say, I didn't really become involved, but I actually came up with the whole idea. It was a way of fundraising for local community singing and musical theatre groups. And we thought it was just a great way of pulling together some local performers to see if we could put on an old-fashioned variety show, which we felt just didn't exist.
Well, I have to say, now I know who's to blame for the way my nerves have been over the past 4 years. I shall look at you in a different light. But it's obviously a very successful show, or has become very successful. How long does it take to put the show together?
It's got easier over the years. I usually start thinking about what acts we might have in it, usually about February time. And people tend to approach me with content that they'd like to do. And I try and sift through and make sure that we don't have too much of one particular act or another. So I would say it usually takes about 6-7 months to put it together throughout the year. And we're always the 3rd week in August. We always have been.
So it's obviously not something that's thrown together. There's an awful lot goes into it. What about rehearsals? When do you start rehearsing, and how often?
Some of the acts actually contained within the show actually start rehearsing about April time in order to hone their skills, you could say.
Yes, I know that feeling.
But the main chorus rehearsals tend to start very last week in June, and then we tend to rehearse twice a week to get all the chorus programme up to scratch.
So that's twice a week? Yeah.
About a couple of months, really, to get it all together.
That's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of work going on. And of course, I do know from my own experience that people rehearse outside of rehearsals, as it were. So I know that there are some that are at home practising every waking moment.
Yes, absolutely. People take it very seriously to try and get their individual acts right.
I know what it's like with me trying to learn words. In Sakos, of course, that's a standing joke. But for those that don't know me, I never put the words down until the last minute before I go on stage. Who decides on exactly what goes in content-wise?
I have to say, everything seems to come back to me again here, doesn't it? I don't want everyone to think I'm like a dictator. But I tend to decide what goes in and what doesn't go in. It's just that I do try and keep it to a certain time limit, which I have to say we went over a bit this year because of technical issues. But I do try and keep it to 2 hours with an interval, because I feel that's probably as long as people really want to sit on hard seats.
Yeah, I can vouch for that.
But with a nice variety of singing, sketches, comedy, a little bit of monologues, to try and get, the variety aspect in.
Well, I think with this year's turnout, certainly it's proved that it's working as a mixture, because the audiences were fantastic.
Do you know, Keith, it's really extraordinary because I actually get people ringing up to ask me when it is so they can book their holidays to come and see it. Well, we have a virtual cult following. It's extraordinary.
I know before I moved down here, and I've been down here 8.5 years now, before I actually moved down here, we had friends here, and we used to come down to see the end of the Pier Show every year as well. And
so you were one of the cult following.
Well, that was right, and that was a journey of 90 miles each way to pop down. Well, we made a weekend of it, of course, but to pop down and see the end of the Pier Show.
It's really
and
nice.
We wouldn't miss it.
Yeah.
And of course, I believe there are some people taking part in it that travel quite a distance.
There are, yes, we have some people that come quite a way to be actually belong in it. We actually have some people who've come down from Oxford, so it's quite remarkable, really.
Yeah, that's a good journey to take part in that. How many people do we have working behind the scenes for this? Stage crew, sound, lighting, obviously there's this.
This year we had about 45 performers in total. We had about 10 people working behind the scenes. And then we've obviously got our very kind volunteers who do the front of house work and do the raffle. All the little bits that add to a bit more fundraising.
I have to say, I'll be surprised if you haven't got one arm bigger than the other. Keep winding that curtain.
Yeah, so I'm the curtain winder for anyone that wonders what I actually do. I'm just put to that task and let everybody else do all the other bits. Yeah.
I mean, the audience can see, they see what comes on stage in front of them. What is it like backstage? I mean, is it a hive of activity, or nerves jangling, or is everybody just calm and just waiting for their
it's
cues?
actually quite nervy, because obviously it's not a show that we rehearse in one piece for weeks to come. So when we actually do our first night, which in fact we will change next year, which we'll come on to, the first night really is the first night we've ever had it in one full run. Which I have to say is why we went a little bit awry this year, because our wonderful lighting man that was going to do the lighting for us, all free of charge, unfortunately had suspected viral meningitis, so had to drop out at the last minute.
Have we heard from him?
Yeah, fortunately it wasn't viral meningitis.
Right.
It was a very, very bad cold, but apparently the symptoms are the same.
I'll get well soon, Andrew.
Yeah, so we had a wonderful man, Matt, who stepped in at the last minute and put it all together, but that caused a few technical issues which made the show a bit longer than we would have liked it to have been this year. But it all came out well in the end. So.
That was Matt Velmerhoff, is it?
That was the one,
The
yes.
man of many talents.
Our saviour.
Very talented in every aspect of it. It's great to have him around, and I know him just being around seems to raise everybody's spirits.
He's wonderful,
so
absolutely.
He really
yes.
is. He's a good character. I also know that this year both performances were sold out very quickly. So are there any plans to increase the amount of performances in the future?
I have to say, we all had a chat actually after the show, and we feel we've got such a big audience now that we really could fit a Saturday matinee in. So next year there will be Friday evening, Saturday matinee and Saturday evening, because we've got to the point that we actually cannot fit anybody else in. And we do feel there's a larger audience that would like to come see it.
Oh, I'm certain there is.
So there will be 3 performances next year. So you heard it here first.
Wonderful. Now, I'm sure this is a question a lot of people would like to ask. If they wanted to be in the show next year, how do they go about it? I know personally, I got involved through SACOS, and that seems to me to be a very good way to start, but what other options are there?
Yes, either come through SACOS from Selsey Amateur Choral and Operatic Society, or my own Cloud9 musical theatre group, which is the youth group, or simply contact me, Sue Graves. Absolutely.
Okay. For those that don't know, Cloud9 is for the younger.
It's for the youth. It specialises in actually putting on productions and performances for children from the ages of about 10 to 16. We do have some slightly younger sometimes if their parents are prepared to take part in productions. And we do an annual pantomime at the town hall, and we put on usually a big musical once every 2 or 3 years. We're hoping to do a big musical next year. So that's what we do. And SACOS, of course, is doing Christmas extravaganza in December at the town hall, and they will be doing South Pacific in April, which I have the misfortune of directing as well. So I'm going to be a busy bee. I shouldn't say misfortune, the fortune of directing. Yeah.
Well, I'll look forward to that one, I have to say.
One of my favourite shows, South Pacific. I
Is it
absolutely
really?
grew up with it. I love it. Gorgeous
You
show.
see, I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh,
I shouldn't own up to that. All the people will know now. Well, I hope that's given everybody an insight into the time and energy that goes into producing a show of this standard. And I would like to say a great big thank you to you, Sue, on behalf of the cast and crew, and of course the paying public for making it all possible.
And we would like to thank our audience too, because without them we wouldn't have a show.
Thanks very much, Sue. Well, thanks to Sue there for that insight into what goes on at the end of the Pier Show and what makes it all tick. Wonderful show. If you don't get your tickets for next year, you're really going to miss out. Right, now Hugh goes across to talk to Gill Jennings about the Medmerry Realignment Scheme.
Right, we've got Gill Jennings from Selsey Town Council here this morning. Gill, what about the Medmerry Realignment Scheme? It's supposedly the largest scheme in the country?
Yes, it is. Yes, as I think I said before, it equates to 300 football pitches.
It's true.
There's a lot of land.
Anyway, a chap who helps me in the garden is called Brian, and he's a really keen cyclist.
Right.
And he says you have to be really quite fit to get to the point where you can actually get onto the alignment.
Yes, access from Selsey is restricted in the sense there are no car parks close by,
Right.
and that was apparently never part of the scheme. I did make inquiries of that. It was always going to be for cyclists mostly.
Yeah.
As you say, it is quite a way. And even the car parks that are available are the other end at Ernley.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm aware, that's not open yet.
No, not yet.
No, that's only for 15 cars.
Yeah.
I think there's a very small car park at, I think it's Eastern Lane, with only 2, and that's for disabled users. And again, I don't think that's open yet.
Well, disabled users aren't going to be leaping on bicycles going around it, are they?
No, but apparently it is accessible for buggies.
Okay.
Some of the areas are, and that's why the car parks are over that way. What they're suggesting at the moment, if you want to park close by, the nearest is at Pagham Harbour, the visitors centre, and parking there and walking through. As far as I understand, all the construction work is meant to be completed this month, the end of this month. So I think all the paths are almost open now. They'll be officially open by the end of the month. It's just all the legal paperwork has not yet been completed. Public right of way type thing that they've got to sign on the dotted line.
And will this be open to not only buggies but presumably, well, we're talking about those sort of electric carts or whatever?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And any form of bicycle?
Yes.
And obviously pedestrians?
Yes. It's for footpaths, bridleways.
Yeah.
Yes, it's supposed to be access.
So will horses be able to go around there?
As far as I understand, some of the areas are designated for bridleways.
Oh, lovely.
Yes. So
Okay.
once it's, I think we've got to accept really that it probably won't be opened fully until perhaps next season.
Yeah.
That
So it'll be an asset next spring.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, possibly. I mean, people are using it now.
Brian is really enthusiastic about it. He thinks it's going to be wonderful.
Oh, I think it is because it is. It's such a new thing. The only managed realignment in the world, I think.
Yeah.
So everybody's going to be watching it and looking at it.
Is it working?
As far as I understand, they said it has been to date. I think it worked quicker than they expected, but it's done what it's meant to do.
Which you stop further encroachment on Selsey?
Yeah, protecting, I think it's 348 houses, the sewage works, the electricity substation and the road.
So it's been well worth it.
Well, we hope so. And it's produced a new nature reserve, which again is an attraction for Selsey. I mean, we've got Pagham Harbour and Medmerry on the other side. Yeah, hopefully we can, it's for tourists.
It's going to be full of twitchers then.
Yes, maybe.
All right, thanks a lot, Jill.
Thanks to Hugh and Gill there for insight into the Medmerry Realignment Scheme. I'm sure there'll be much discussion over that in the future months. Nick Jones now explains to Hugh what A Dark Day Dawns was all about.
I've got Nick Jones in the studio, fresh from the conquest of the Passion Play, and he's been involved in a new enterprise. Well, Nick, tell us about this enterprise.
It was called A Dark Day Dawned. It was, we held it a week ago in the village hall, and it was to commemorate the 57 names that are chiselled into our war memorial in the High Street. For a long time, for a couple of years, Mike Beale has had a yearning to commemorate these 57 names, and after a lot of work on his part, he formed this performance. It was I was the narrator, and I described the run up to the war, of the periods during the war, and we also read out every name that is on the war memorial, and we lit a candle with a small white cross all around the town hall, and it was quite a moving experience. We did sorry.
Was that a candle for each person?
Yes,
on
a candle that was lit for each name.
Okay,
57 candles that were around the shelves inside the town hall.
Okay.
And when it was all lit, it was very moving. The attendances weren't quite as high as we wished. However, about 100 people came and saw us, and we got a very good response from the people who were there. There's a couple of things I'd like to read to you from the scripts. It started off on August the 14th, 1914 at 11 p.m. Great Britain declared war on Germany, and it was a decision that is seen as the start of World War I. Britain, led by Prime Minister Herbert Asquith, had given Germany an ultimatum to withdraw troops from Belgium by midnight of August the 3rd, in fear of being surrounded by the might of Russia and France. Germany had put into action the 1906 Schlieffen Plan. The earlier event in Sarajevo, in June 1914, was the final trigger that led to the dominoes falling and the start of the war. On August the 4th, 1914, a dark day dawned. Now, we had poems, we had a small choir, which sang excellently, beautiful songs. Fran, my pianist from the Passion Play, played the piano,
and she's also the organist at the church, isn't she?
She is as well, yes. And we also had a small recorder ensemble, and before the interval they played a beautiful medley of music from the wars, not just the First World War, but wartime music.
Okay.
We had some very nice readings, as I say, and I narrated the story of the war, and then we read out each name in chronological order of the people who are commemorated on the war memorial. This is one particular little bit that I like. I think this is very nice. This brings a bit of lightness to the show. When you are a soldier, you're one of two things. If you're behind the lines, you need not worry. If you're in front, you are one of two things. You are either in a danger zone or in a zone which is not dangerous. If you're in a zone which is not dangerous, you need not worry. If you're in a danger zone, you're one of two things. Either you are wounded or you're not. If you're not wounded, you need not worry. If you're wounded, you're one of two things. Either seriously wounded or slightly wounded. If you are slightly wounded, you need not worry. If you are seriously wounded, one of two things is certain. Either you get well or you die. If you get well, you need not worry. If you die, you cannot worry. So there's no need to worry about anything at all, is there? I think that's lovely. I think that's lovely.
Yeah.
A lot of people were killed in the Navy as well.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, they were killed in the sea, and it was horrible, really. And when you read about it, you realise what a total waste of life the whole thing was. On one occasion, I believe, there was 100,000 men killed or wounded to gain 5 yards of land.
Yeah.
And that's all they gained, and it's just quite horrible, quite horrible.
We've been to look, at some of the trenches, and some of the trenches were less than 30 metres apart.
Yeah.
The Germans and the French.
Yeah.
Can you imagine getting out of one of those trenches and rushing 30 metres into a withering machine gun fire?
Absolutely.
I don't know how they ever got them to do it.
No.
I wouldn't have gone.
No.
Would you?
No. But if you didn't go, you got shot.
Yes, well, that's
That
true.
was the terrible thing.
Yeah.
Talking of trenches, finding your way around the trench system was very difficult. Wherever possible, the same regiments would live in the same trenches so that they could get to know their way about. To help them in this, the Tommies gave names to the trenches: Piccadilly, Oxford Street, Park Lane, etc. They even made signs and fixed them to the junctions between the different trenches. Gas, that was a horrible thing.
Yeah.
That was awful.
That was mustard gas, wasn't it?
Oh, it was awful. And there is just a short little thing here which is does really bring home. You watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face like a devil sick of sin. If you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of vile incurable sores on innocent tongues. My friend, you would not tell with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory the old lie, dulce et decorum est pro patria more. Yeah, horrible, quite horrible. Actually, but as well as what we did, the U3A, I apologise, Michael. It's the Selsey U3A, Selsey Society and other individuals, brought a very good booklet called The Selsey and the Great War Roll of Honour, and I know it's still available in the town hall and various other little outlets. I think you can get them, and all of the names are again listed and information about all these people is given. Very, very excellent booklet, it really is, and I would recommend, if you haven't got one, try and get hold of one. Rupert Brooke, of course, wrote the famous poem, there shall be in that rich earth a richer dust concealed, a dust whom England bore, shaped, made aware, gave once her flowers to love, her ways to roam, a body of England's breathing English air, washed by the rivers, blessed by the sons of home. Let me just remember, the British Legion, their service of remembrance, some of the best words are from The Fallen, which was written by Lawrence Binion. Thou shalt grow not old as we are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Which is what Selsey's doing, really, isn't it?
It is, and I think I'm so proud to have been one of the people who was involved in the remembrance. And I think we can just finish off by saying, if they asked us why we died, tell them because our fathers lied.
Okay.
Thank you very much indeed, Hugh, for asking me to talk about this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to Nick there for a rather interesting insight into A Dark Day Dawn and what it was all about. Very topical, of course, at this present time. We go across to Tallulah now, who's going to fill us in on what's happening in and around the village for the coming week.
Hello, I'm Tallulah Stevens and I'm going to be telling you what's on in Selsey for the next week. This week is a particularly exciting one because we have the Selsey Carnival procession. This is on the 24th of August and leaves School Lane Recreation Ground at 3 p.m. The floats assemble at 1 o'clock, are judged by 2 and then the procession leaves at 3 p.m. It will go along the High Street, Seal Road, Grafton Road, Manor Road, Church Road and then back along the High Street to the Recreation Ground. Also on the 24th of August is the RSPB Pagham Harbour 50th Anniversary Picnic Party, and that's running from 11 a.m. till 4 p.m. On the evening of the 24th of August, there's the annual Carnival Fireworks. This starts at 8:30 p.m. in School Lane Recreation Ground. It's always a great display, and with the funfair as well, it's a great evening's entertainment. The 26th of August hosts the Carnival Car Boot Sale in School Lane on the Recreation Ground. This is open to sellers at 6:30 a.m. and is run by Burnett's Funfair. This is a popular event every year, so get down there to find yourself a bargain. The 29th of August hosts the Community Wardens Climbing Wall at Manor Green Park. This is 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and is free admission. And finally, on the 31st of August is the Academy PTA Car Boot Sale. Buyers from 8 a.m. till 1 p.m. and cars are £7. Again, this is another popular event and a great way to round off the carnival week.
Thanks for that, Tallulah. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week. We're going to see if we can find Hugh and Giles now and see if Giles will eventually tell us what's happening in the garden.
Okay, we've got Giles back in the studio. and we're getting towards the end of the summer now. Charles, what should we be doing in the garden?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Hugh. Before we go into the garden, I just want to amble around the country slightly. If you look around, the swift swallows and martins, well, swifts and swallows particularly, are now flying higher and higher and higher, and the chorus is getting louder and triller. That's very apparent from now on. And also, especially as we're by the sea here, sea holly stands out very much by the seashore. It's very apparent with its bluish leaves and its blue close-set flowers.
Yeah.
So that is probably looking very, very good at this time of year, sea holly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm personally not sure if we've got that much around Selsey or not. I don't really know, but suppose I should. But I haven't actually walked enough of the beaches to know if it's nearby or not. I'm sure there must be some in Selsey.
What does sea holly look like?
Well, it's a sort of it's a bit like a thistle in a way. That's the nearest thing I can give to it.
Okay, yeah.
So it's sort of vaguely like that, but the leaves are far thicker and bigger.
Yep.
I have seen it, but I think it's been it was in a private garden actually, rather than wild, where one of these gardens that goes onto the sea.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's looking good if one can find it. Also, again in the beaches, I don't notice it around here so much, but people will be going away a lot to the beach anyway. The live cockles are now, they bury themselves under the sand this time of year, very much so, and you see them ejecting these little jets of water coming through.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know. Again, I can't comment on Selsey because I don't know if there are many cockles in Selsey.
Oh yeah, there are.
But there are probably certain areas more than others.
Down near Packham Harbour.
Oh, that sounds where I would have thought. Yeah, because so there are a few around, and of course the old tale that people have, but it does work, and I've done it. Always done it. I did it a lot when I was in Ireland. In fact, get some ribbon seaweed, bring it home, tie it up outside the door, and have a look every morning. And it does. It is actually very good, because if it's good, really dry, you'll get a good day. And if it's a bit slightly damp, even though it might not be raining at the time, it does mean rain's on the way. It is actually it's probably as good as.
Well, you know what that's if you go down to the end of Hillfield Road and you look at the Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
And the old Selsey boy said, if you can see the Isle of Wight, it's going to rain.
Yeah.
If you can't see the Isle of Wight, it's already raining.
Yeah. Well, that's another very good. To go along with that. Anyway.
Never mind. Let's come off the bridge. What about the garden?
Let's get back into the garden. Right, keep very busy removing all flower heads on buddleias. Anyone who's got buddleia, remove any brown flower heads. I mean, and then that's a good idea, because later on, if you do that, you'll get some more flowers later on from lower shoots.
Yeah.
So that is very important.
Yeah.
If you go with buddleia, people get the brown flower heads snips off now, and you prolong the flowering. Anyone who's got wisteria, honeysuckle or clematis, the early clematis, I mean not the summer clematis, winter, finish pruning them now, get the pruning finished, because they all get a bit straggly, get a bit wild, and they all need taking back in hand. So that's a good job to be doing. Also, if you've got any annuals or bedding plants which you've planted in the spring, and some of them are quite often some are not as good as they might be. You're all going to have a few weak patches, if you like.
Yeah.
Instead of sort of persisting with them, go out to the garden centres now, and there's lots of bargains to be had.
Yeah.
And you can buy some loads of what I call fill-ins, which are going to be really good.
Yeah.
So in other words, don't waste time trying to persist with any of the borders that are not looking great. Some of it, all right, go out and buy. And I would also suggest that vegetable plots, keep hoeing them every so often, not only to keep weeds at bay, but also by hoeing, you're loosening the soil, which in turn, especially in weather like this, conserves moisture more if it's loose, obviously, than when it's hard. So it's two good reasons to keep hoeing. I mean, this time of year, so late crops of lettuce, salad crops. I mean, lettuce, radishes, spring onions, and wild rocket, and you'll be able to have them a bit later in the year. No, I'd say really now around about here, I'll have to, as usual, go out with a little flippant remark. How do you make a stupid gardener laugh on a Monday?
Oh, come on. How do you do it?
Tell them the joke on a Friday.
Go away, Giles.
Well, thanks to Hugh and Giles there, we eventually got round to the garden, although I enjoyed every bit of it anyway. And of course, the programme wouldn't be the same if we didn't go across and visit Lynn and find out what Hugh was having for his supper. Although I don't think he'll like this very much because he doesn't like fish.
Right, Lynn, how are the fish suppers going?
Oh, Hugh, they're going really well. I'm really pleased with them. Yeah, really busy.
And what time do you start?
Well, they start around 5 o'clock or whenever anybody wants to drift in. They're available from the afternoon right through to the evening.
What time do you finish?
8:30. So,
8:30, okay.
Yeah.
So, how much does a fish supper cost?
Well, it depends what fish you have, doesn't it? We did some really lovely big plate of sea bass last week, and that was $10.99.
Right.
But it just depends on what fish you're having. Half a lobster, crab, whatever. So, you know, if you're having a smaller fish, it's going to cost less. You don't have to have fish either. We do a meat alternative.
Okay, all right. So, yes, because you know I don't like fish, don't you?
I do. This week we've got a lovely...
I find it really sad that I live in a fishing village and I don't like fish.
Yeah, that is a bit sad, really.
It's a legacy from the war, I'm afraid. I can't eat it.
I think if you were starving, you'd eat it.
No, I wouldn't.
But we've got a lovely pork fillet on this week as well.
Oh, fine. Okay, I'll be there.
I had a feeling that Hugh wouldn't enjoy the fish supper too much. Right, well, that's it for this week's podcast. On behalf of our sponsors and our contributors, and also on behalf of Hugh Graham, Tallulah Stevens, Nick Jones, Tony Weeder for editing, this is Keith Barnes signing off for another week. And as Jimmy Young would have said, TTFN, ta-ra for now.